Good evening and welcome back to the Rory Talks Football channel, your daily Arsenal news, updates, debates and my opinions. If you're new to the channel, please do subscribe. We are closing in on 5,000 subscribers. We're about 70 away. Massively helps me out. Smash a like on the stream as well, if you could be so kind. And look, let's call a spade a spade. Disastrous news for Arsenal coming out this evening. Around Jurrien Timber. Of course, we will get into it. And look, potentially, a lot of the transfer news that comes along with that from earlier in the day becomes irrelevant. Obviously, certain players this won't affect, but players like Tierney, this news I do think affects. So we'll get into that. It'll be a discussion amongst me and you about what happens at Arsenal next. But look, great to see loads of you here. Ibrahim, Ian, VV Vlad. VV Vlad is 7th in the Rory Talks Football Fantasy Football League at the moment, by the way. So shout out to Vlad. Jakob, Alex, William Salibak, Magnus, the Shadow Claw, Ethan, Matt, Ross, Anthony, Trappy, and IZK. Good to see you all. So look, it's a disaster. It's a disaster. Ross says, I did say on Friday, there's absolutely no way we can sell Tierney, as we'd be so close to having Holding and Cedric in the matchday squad. Well, yeah, we're even closer now, aren't we? So, by the way, I appreciate you all being here. Obviously, it's a different time. It's a different time of day. Because of the United game, the Football Terrace show was an hour earlier, and so we're streaming after it. And shout out to anyone that tuned into the Football Terrace as well. It was a good stream. But look, this is the news on Jurrien Timber that we didn't want to hear. Coming from The Athletic, Jurrien Timber has suffered a serious knee injury and is set for a significant absence. Big blow to Arsenal to lose Timber in their first league game. Tests are ongoing to discover the full extent of the injury. But Mike Verweg, who's very close to Ajax, will be very close to Jurrien Timber's camp and people that know him. Said Jurrien Timber tore his ACL against Nottingham Forest on the weekend and is set to be out for months. So it is the worst news that we could possibly have had. Now, immediate reaction to it. Look, some people are blaming Arsenal. Are blaming Arteta, blaming the doctor because he was injured before half-time. He came out for the second half and then went down. According to various people, including Dr. Rajpal Brar, who's quite big on Twitter, if his ACL was ruptured at half-time, he wouldn't have come out for the second half. ACL full ruptures are clear via hands-on testing. It's called a Lockman thing. They would have known at halftime. The doctor assessed him. They would have known if it was ruptured at halftime, and they obviously wouldn't have sent him back out. Now, there's questions as to whether the first half injury was even the cause of the second half injury. Genuinely, it could just be that right before he went down, he twisted the wrong way. I mean, that is how easy, if you've seen Tyrone Mings' ACL from the weekend, simply trying to change direction caused it. So I think blaming Arteta or the doctor or whoever is, you're trying to find someone to blame for what is ultimately just a very disappointing, very unlucky injury. How is Caicedo announced earlier than Raya? It's just the way teams do things. It's the way teams do things. And especially if Raya hadn't completed his medical, then it may well have been that his medical got delayed because of the Timber injury, because the medical team would have been dealing with that. So worst news would have been ruptured ACL. Tear is slightly less, but still shocking. Yeah, so it's not a rupture, which is the relative silver lining. But it is very, very, very unfortunate. They also need to check if there's other damage, meniscus damage. But it's look, the likelihood is we won't see him until the new year. And it's gutting. Matt says, hope you're well. What was Arteta playing at with the squad he put out? Why was Partey playing right back? Why did Nketiah start over Trossard? Why didn't we just put out our strongest 11? Well, I think the first big change was Gabriel, right? Obviously bringing in Nketiah for Gabriel, changing the system. Arteta himself claimed that was completely tactical. There were rumours that Gabriel had a knock and wasn't fully fit to play. We'll never know, truthfully. But it sounds like Arteta wanted to play that different system against Nottingham Forest, against the team. Yeah, he knew they were going to play 5 at the back, very deep, absorb a lot of pressure, and he thought that would work better. Now, you can debate whether or not you think it did work better, but we won in the end, I guess, is the main thing. Although I agree. Well, do I agree? Look, I thought Nketiah had a very good game. I probably would have started Trossard myself, but I think everyone needs to stop overreacting and wait for an official statement. I agree to an extent, but I think it's... So earlier on, right, there were just very, very unconfirmed reports that Timber had done his ACL. And I tweeted myself, let's just hold off until we get something more official. Because at that point, it was just rumour. It was journalists saying, there are fears among people close to Arsenal. The Mike Verweg one is the one that really, for me, put the nail in the coffin. He's tier 1. He doesn't, he was the first person reporting Timber to Arsenal in the first place. He's very close to the camp and the player. So for me, that was the one that was, I believed it once he'd reported it. The update on Timber Max is he's torn his ACL and will be out for months. Slightly concerning that 6 players who played on AstroTurf in the USA over summer all have ACL injuries. Yeah, it is worrying. It is worrying. Because the thing is, with an ACL tear, you don't really know until it happens. And who knows how many of those that have had it completely go, what were they carrying a slight tear already from playing out there? Look, it could just be complete coincidence, but you never know. How do you think Chelsea will do now with Caicedo and Lavia? I was actually just talking about this on the Top 6 show because someone said who's got a better midfield, Partey, Rice, Ødegaard, or Lavia, Caicedo, Enzo. And for me, Lavia, Caicedo, Enzo doesn't really work as a 3-man midfield because it doesn't have an Ødegaard, it doesn't have a Bruno, it doesn't have a De Bruyne. Because Enzo isn't that guy. Enzo is kind of more like a Jorginho, in my opinion. So I don't think all 3 of them works together. But look, it massively improves Chelsea's midfield. And hearing that Liverpool, off the back of that, are going for Tyler Adams that's not even... Liverpool aren't even taking Chelsea's sloppy seconds. That's like... Because remember, he had a medical with Chelsea. And then they were like, oh, actually, we can get Caicedo and Lavia, never mind. It's like filthy fourths or something. I don't know what you call it, but it's shocking for Liverpool. Will Raya be announced today? Probably not today, given the time that we're at now. Arsenal usually do their announcements earlier in the day, so I expect it'll be tomorrow. But he has fully completed all of his medical and everything. So he just compared Enzo to Jorginho. Yeah, Callum, are you a donkey? Are you a donkey? Have I compared their ability, or have I compared them as a profile? If I compare myself to Adebayo, Akinfenwa, I'm not saying that we're on the same level. I'm saying profile-wise, I move like a lorry, he moves like a lorry. Don't embarrass yourself. No worries, hi, no problem. Filthy fourths? Yeah, I don't know what you'd call it. I couldn't think of one for thirds, so we jumped straight to filthy fourths. Are we getting a new centre-back then? Well, this is the thing, right? So now we go back into the transfer market. So you've got Kieran Tierney, the latest on Kieran Tierney. This came from Luke Edwards in The Telegraph. Arsenal are thought to be very keen to find a move for Kieran Tierney. They would prefer to sell the player at this stage, but a compromise could be achieved that would defer the fee for another 12 months, which would help Newcastle navigate their way through FFP concerns. Given the nature of the deal, it could be that it has to wait until closer to the deadline. Now, that is very similar effectively to what we're doing with David Raya. So what he's saying is, because Newcastle are also very tight to the line with FFP, he's saying we could give Newcastle a similar deal to what we've done with David Raya, where it's, a loan with an option to buy, but the assumption is that they'll trigger that option to buy next year. So that's one option, which is Newcastle, which, looking at Newcastle at the weekend against Villa, they look very, very good. If there was one position I'd argue they can definitely upgrade, it's left back. So, for me, I'd rather he didn't go there. The other one, Fabrizio Romano said Real Sociedad have made contact for Tierney this week, but Arsenal want a permanent deal, while Sociedad are only offering a loan. So, who knows whether that will happen. The third option now is, do you keep Kieran Tierney? If Jurrien Timber is going to be out for at least half the season, do you keep Kieran Tierney? And I don't know the answer to that. My feeling is no. I don't think it changes anything, but it may well do. I don't think we're going to see yet another fullback signing. I suspect Arteta might call on Walters. So Walters, for me, whether or not Walters is ready for it, I don't know. But for me, Walters, I'd bring him into the squad. You know, he's in the squad last year. Would you take Tyler Adams? He can play that Partey role. No, I don't think he's good enough. I don't think he's good enough. I think he's a good player. I think he could go to. I think he could go to a Brighton, Villa, Brentford, or Fulham, slightly lower down. I don't think he's a Liverpool, Arsenal. Ultimately, right? There's a reason that Chelsea had done the medical with him. He'd completed the medical, and once they could get Caicedo and Lavia, they dropped him. That gives you an idea of the level I think that he is, which isn't, to disrespect him. Why has there been so many ACL injuries recently? To be honest, I think the main thing is load. I think players are playing so many games that it's going to happen more, right? If every player used to play 45, 48 games a season, and now they're playing 55, 58 games a season, you're just going to get more ACL. You're going to get more of every type of injury. And I feel like it also becomes that thing where, like, there's like a reinforcement every time you see an ACL now, because you already kind of think, oh, there's a lot of ACLs at the moment. Every time you see another one, that like reaffirms your kind of theory. What was the idea with keeping Timber on for the second half and going down at the end of after going down at the end of the first half? Timber felt fine. The medic assessed him. The doctor assessed him. Literally assessed his ligaments and came to the conclusion that he was fine. And it's very possible that the injury he sustained, given that it's an ACL, it's very possible that injury happened in the second half. Because to me, the injury he had in the first half looked more like an impact injury at the top of his shin. 900 million in a year, how shocking is FFP? Well, so it came out tonight, I don't know if you've seen this, it came out tonight according to the Mail Online that Chelsea are, the Premier League are going to be implementing the same, or closing the loophole that UEFA had already closed for these 8-year contracts. Because the reason that Chelsea have got around it with Caicedo is that it's a UEFA rule. The 8-year amortization of the contract. Under UEFA rules, you can only do that to 5 years. But Premier League, for whatever reason, didn't anticipate that they should do the exact same thing. They are now going to do that, but it won't be until next summer. So that's how Chelsea are getting away with it. I still think it will come back to bite Chelsea at some point, but not for now. The reason I'm live at 7 and not 5, Max, is because I was on the Football Terrace, the Top 6 show on the Football Terrace from 5 until 7, because of the United game later. Personally, don't think the first half injury was the reason for Timber going down in the second. I agree. I absolutely agree with that. Following Balogun news, according to Gazzetta, Tottenham are interested in a move for Arsenal's 22-year-old USA forward following Harry Kane's departure. Now, I don't know about you, but if Tottenham come knocking, you add 20 million on it. If Tottenham come knocking, they've just got 100 million. Brawl wants a Barella update. I don't think we've had a Barella update in a while. And I certainly don't think if we do go back into the market now, it's going to be for a Barella player. There's nothing new on Barella since 4 or 5 days ago. So on Balogun, yeah, if Tottenham want him, 75 mil. You've got the money. I'm not letting Balogun go to Spurs and do well for them unless we get proper money for it. Wow, Adams to Bournemouth. Really? I've not seen that. I thought Liverpool wanted him. And then Tuto Mercato on following Balogun. AS Monaco are evaluating the possibility of relaunching a third bid for following Balogun, closer to the €50 million asking price, and are pressing to sign the player. Arsenal have already rejected bids of 30 million and 40 million euros from Monaco. So we'll wait and see what happens on that front. Rory, do you think we could get Kudus? If so, when? I think it's going to be difficult because West Ham want him now as well. And we just don't have the money. We need to sell players. This is the big issue. And then Pepe. According to Sky, Besiktas have held talks with Arsenal over a potential deal for Pepe. And according to Jakub Sinyar, who's a Turkish reporter, Besiktas have agreed personal terms with Pepe weeks ago and are now close to agreeing a deal with Arsenal. A few details remain, and then the deal will be done. So we might see Pepe to Besiktas. But again, for that, I don't think we'd get a fee. So it doesn't really help us with any incoming transfers that we want to buy. I'd say to give Liverpool El Neni and Lokonga for 200 million. Look, El Neni, 25 mil. There's a deal to be done there for Liverpool. 25 mil. I think that's a cheap, good price. No way these Chelsea players will leave being on their mammoth contracts. Well, this is the issue. And this is where I think down the line... Look, I've made videos about Chelsea's FFP in the past, and Chelsea fans still bang on about them, even though the last time I did it was in January. But I do think it can come back to bite them. And this is not even to do with FFP, but further down the line, right? Let's say Moises Caicedo. He's on an 8-year deal on, 120k, okay? If in 2 years' time, he turns around and says, well, I want a pay rise. I want to be on 200 grand a week. And Chelsea say no. Chelsea fans think that because he's tied down to 8 years, that's a good thing for them because they don't have to renegotiate in the same way that if he had a year left on his contract, he could demand a higher wage or go for free. But the issue is Caicedo could turn around in 2 years' time and go, well, I'm not going to play. If you don't increase my salary, I'm not going to play, I'm not going to try, and I'll sit here for 6 more years on 120 grand a week. And if you get a few players doing that, all of a sudden they're in trouble because if Chelsea attempt to sell a player, the way that the amortization works is that you can spread the cost over 5 years, 8 years in these circumstances. But if you sell the player halfway into that 8-year contract, the remainder of what would have been amortized over those remaining years gets brought back to the year that you're selling them. And so again, Mykhailo Mudryk. Let's say Mykhailo Mudryk doesn't improve. And in 2 years, if Chelsea really want to compete for titles and stuff, they need a better left winger than Mykhailo Mudryk. Well, they've got to find a way of selling him and getting enough money back that the remaining years of amortization are paid off. And even then, they'll only break even. As it stands, going into every new financial year, based on the amortization of every player that's currently on Chelsea's books, they're spending £135 million before they've brought anyone. And again, that's an issue. Imagine effectively you buy every single, every summer window you buy a £135 million player that can never play for you. That's effectively what they've got for the next 5 to 8 years. So I do think it can come back and bite them. The alternative is that it doesn't bite them because all of these players work out well. And that for the next 8 years, they've got an entire squad of players who are good enough to compete for titles and Champions Leagues. In which case, everyone else is in the mud and this is absolute genius. So it could work either way. It's ultimately what it is a massive risk. And it's a risk that, look, every other club could make that risk if they wanted to. Liverpool could have given Caicedo a 10-year contract, but they don't want to take on that risk. Chelsea are willing to take on the risk, and we'll see what happens with it. But that's how they're currently not being done for any FFP things, because by the books, they're not breaching FFP. Any update on David Raya? I haven't heard anything and started to be concerned. It's all done. I will... Word for word, I will get the report for you, but he completed all of his medicals today, and it is all done. Although, Kaya Kaynak earlier said Arsenal's still confident on the David Raya deal. Intricacies of contract in loan with option to buy deal causing a hold-up could be announced relatively soon, though. So interesting. It isn't technically done. Although Sky reported this morning that Arsenal had a full agreement with the signing of David Raya from Brentford. So, yeah. I don't think there's anything to worry about. I just think Todd Bowley just doesn't give a damn about FFP. They'd be willing to take the fine if they got it. UEFA Premier League need to make a strong example out of them. Well, that's the other thing, right? We have all just witnessed Man City win the treble. With 115 charges that date back years and years and years, they've just won the treble. So Todd Bowley might be looking at it going, well, this is a problem for a later date. We can win everything. We can buy a squad that wins everything, and then later down the line, in years and years and years' time, after it's gone through lawyers and courts and all the rest of it, maybe we'll get a big fine. the example that the Premier League have set with Man City is a problem. Walter's got to be watching the Timber highlights. Well, look, I think profile-wise, Walters is quite similar to Timber. So, Rory, are you worried about the Timber absence? Do you think we have enough depth and cover? Well, I mean, it depends what future injuries we get, right? It's very difficult to know. The worry would be that Zinchenko and Tomiyasu are very injury-prone. And if you take those two out, we're down to 6 defenders. 5. So that's the concern. And also, even if it delays moving on Kieran Tierney, or it delays moving on Tomiyasu, if that's what Arteta wanted to do, effectively it does just delay our plans by another 6 months to 12 months. In my Football Manager save, I used to offer elite wonder kids 5-year contracts and an option to be extended for a further 3 years. Same thing Todd is doing. Yeah, kind of. But this is the thing. Liverpool could have done it if they wanted to. And this is why I don't have sympathy with Liverpool. I see Liverpool fans and journalists saying, Liverpool, how are we meant to compete? Blah, blah. You offered 110 million. You've got the money. You offered it. You got beaten. But don't pretend like you haven't got money to spend. You offered 110 million. You bid 110 million. So I don't have any sympathy with Liverpool. In the same way that Liverpool fans had no sympathy with us when Mudryk went to Chelsea. So it is what it is. Yeah, true. We need to keep KT. The thing is, I still think KT is arguably the 4th choice left back. Like there's an argument to be made. You still go Zinchenko, Kivior, Tomiyasu, Tierney. FSG reporting Chelsea to the Prem. Yeah, I mean that's just sour grapes, isn't it? No, we're telling on you. Liverpool have been using inhalers for however long. So, it's each to their own, and everyone finds loopholes. Is Jimmy McCann reliable? I've got no idea. Kieran Tierney didn't play last season without Kivior. How is he going to play now? Yeah, exactly. KT barely played last season at a time where we didn't have Kivior and we didn't have Timber. So I don't think losing Timber massively impacts Kieran Tierney's position at the club. Personally, I'd whatever the plan for Kieran Tierney was, I'd still follow through with that plan, and I'd promote Ruel Walters. Because, by the way, from what I've seen consistently of Walters, massive future. Hey, Rory, going on holiday for 2 weeks, so I won't be in the stream. Gonna miss the streams. No worries, hi. Enjoy the holiday. I'm jealous. Respectfully, there's no way you just said Tierney as 4th choice. That's not my opinion. That's not whether or not I think he's the 4th best left back we've got. It's looking at pre-season. It's looking at what happened last season. Do you genuinely think that Arteta puts Tierney ahead of Tomiyasu and Kivior? Because I don't. Tierney didn't start a single game in pre-season and he wasn't in the squad for Forest. So that's honestly not me saying I think that they're better players than him, because I actually think Tierney's better than Tomiyasu at left back. For me, it would go Zinchenko, Kivior, Tierney, Tomiyasu. But Tomiyasu came on ahead of Kivior when Timber went off injured. So, this is an Arteta, take it up with Arteta, not with me. I can see Liverpool going for Tchouaméni or Camavinga, and why didn't they just put that money for Bellingham? Well, who knows? Look, Liverpool have had an absolute rotter. They have had an absolute stinker. Ibrahim, good to see you. Guys, how long is Timber out for? LJ, it's going to be months. We don't know exactly how long. Arsenal don't know exactly how long. They've got to do more scans and stuff to figure out the exact damage, whether he'll need surgery. But it's not good. Any news on Holding? Yeah, well, the news on Holding, apparently, Villa might be interested. With the injury to Tyrone Mings, Aston Villa might be interested in Rob Holding. But apparently, Arsenal want 12 million. Arsenal want 10 to 12 million for Rob Holding, which, look, in the market, I think he's probably worth it. He's a 27-year-old centre-back, a lot of experience. Is he much worse than Harry Maguire, who's going for 30 million? I don't think so. So I understand why they're holding out for 10 to 12 million. I'm just not sure we'll get it. But this is another example of where holding on to players until the end of the window, other clubs become desperate. Villa were not in the market for a centre-back until suddenly Tyrone Mings is out for the season. And this will happen, every single match day between now and the end of the window. Players are going to get long injuries and clubs are going to have to go into the transfer market. We might have to go into the transfer market to replace Timber. I don't think we will, but we might have to. It was so rookie allowing him to play the second half, especially when he was limping for the first 3 minutes. Yeah, but there were two separate injuries. The injury in the first half was not the injury that he went off with. It's a coincidence, and it's unfortunate, but it wasn't rookie. He thought he was fine. The doctor thought he was fine. And the ligament injury was not the injury that he had in the first half. I'm not even sure it was the same leg. Because I'm certain it was his left. It was the top of his left leg that he hurt in the first half, and it's his right knee that the ACL's gone. Sign his twin brother. Well, look, there were some rumours that we were actually interested in Quinton Timber before this weekend. So Spurs versus West Ham bidding war for Balogun last week of the window. Well, that's the thing. You can see it happening, and this is the balance, right? This is the thing that you've got to weigh up. Do you take less for players now than you might get in a few weeks' time, but then use that money to buy someone else? Or do you wait until the end of the window to get more money, but then not have time to spend it? That's the issue that we're kind of in at the moment. 75 million for Van Dijk, 70 million for Alisson, 85 for Nunez, 140 for Diaz, Gakpo, and Jota, but Paul has 1 point. This is the thing. The it's the Liverpool woe is me attitude that annoys me. They've spent a lot of money. Out of nowhere, look, realistically, if Liverpool had bid 110 million for Caicedo 2 weeks ago, they'd probably have got him. And if they hadn't got him, they'd have had an extra 2 weeks to sort something else out. If Liverpool had just bid the 50 million for Lavia, they'd have got him. But they were haggling over 2 million. And then they went to Lavia, actually, we're going to go and spend 110 million on Caicedo because you're our second choice. And then they wonder why he's picking Chelsea over them. Be in no doubt, Liverpool had a fantastic start to the transfer window. McAllister was great value. Szoboszlai is a great signing, even though he's quite expensive. But they've shat the bed. They have. They've absolutely fumbled it. And I've got no sympathy for them. There's no way Teta brings Tavares back. No, Tavares won't be coming back into the team. Absolutely not. Is Kyle Walker-Peters really that good? No. Kyle Walker-Peters is all right, but AFTV was saying Arteta wants to give Nuno Tavares. Yeah, but it's AFTV. Come on. They report AFTV report every rumour. And this is the thing, and it's what I try and do on this channel, right? Is when I give you a rumour or I give you a piece of information, I tell you who said it, and I give an opinion on the quality of that source. Now, I'm not saying my opinion on the quality of that source is correct, but I've been reading these things for long enough to know what tends to be a good source and a bad source. Whereas, look, each to their own. Everyone has a different style of content. AFT will just give you every single rumour that's out there because it gets people talking, and that's fine. Guess the Gooner. We will have a guest. In fact, actually, we'll get into Guess the Gooner in a quick second because I want to make sure we finish in time for everyone to go and watch the United game if they want to. Do we have two strong starting 11s for Champions League? No, but we don't. Nor did Man City last season. And this is the thing. You don't need a full two strong starting 11s. And what Man City did and what Arsenal have been trying to replicate is having versatile players. Because you can't have a full strong backup 11 because two of those players wouldn't even get into a matchday squad in the Premier League. And you're not going a player that is good enough to fight for the Premier League and the Champions League is not going to tolerate not even being in a matchday squad. So you can't do that. You can't. This left-back situation is bad. Zinchenko can get caught out defensively. And on the other hand, Tomiyasu and Kivior aren't natural going forwards. Well, I think Kivior is the answer for me. I think Kivior is very good on the ball. And defensively is very good. Arsenal defender Gabriel is the latest big-name star to be targeted for big money move to Saudi Arabia. John Cross Mirror. Yeah, he's not going anywhere, pal. He's not going anywhere. And again, John Cross is not a great source, truthfully. Anyway, it is time for Guess the Gooner, the game where I give you an ex or current Arsenal player's career path minus the Arsenal part of it, and you have to guess who that player is in the chat. Fastest finger on your keyboards. You get the immense pride and respect of the Rory Talks Football community and the wider footballing community. I'll be honest, this is a hard one. I do think this is a tricky one, but we will get into it. So, this player started their career at Levante. They went to RCD Mallorca, they went to Portsmouth, and they went to Cordoba. Levante, Mallorca, Portsmouth, Cordoba. Who is the player? John Cross is a great name for a right wing back. You're not wrong. It's not Paulista, it's not Mustafi, and unbelievably, VV Vlad has nailed it early doors. That was way quicker than I expected. But it is VV Vlad who's got it correct. Straight off the bat, it's Lauren. It is Lauren. Fair play to Vlad. I thought that was going to take a while, but it was the third guess out of anyone. Who was second? Hi was second. Michael Farrell was third. Might be a new name to the chat. I don't recognise that name. Welcome to the chat. Mr. was fourth. And William Saliba with the Community Shield was fifth. So congratulations to VV Vlad, who again is also flying in fantasy football. He's seventh in my league in fantasy football. And that league's got like over 5,000 people in it. And VV Vlad is second. He did triple captain Haaland, so there is that. But congratulations to him. Medical update on Timber. The latest on Timber FPL RTX is he's torn his ACL and he will be out for months. He will be out for months. Oh, have you seen the Arsenal statement on Timber? I haven't. No. Is there a statement? Let me get this. There's a statement update on Jurrien Timber's injury. Where is it? Here we go. This is an update. Further to his substitution during our match against Nottingham Forest on Saturday, Jurrien Timber has received extensive assessments and scans, which has confirmed he sustained an injury to his right knee. Jurrien will undergo a further detailed assessment and review with a consultant in the coming days to assess the full extent of the injury in order to determine the next steps. A further update will be provided in due course. Everyone at the club is focused on supporting Jurrien at this time. Now, that final line is bad. They've not really given any information. Obviously, we've heard from other sources that it's a torn ACL, which is better than a ruptured ACL, if it's the case. But that final line, everyone at the club is focused on supporting Jurrien at this time. You know, it makes it sound like someone's died. You know, supporting someone at this time, that's a fairly morbid statement. So it's definitely more than a knock, which is, it's brutal. It's brutal. I'm 4,132nd in the FF League. Ross, what are you doing, pal? Ross, I mean, I'm about 600th, which that's nearly in the top 10%. Nearly in the top 10%. What's the FPL code? I'll put the FPL code in the chat. It's MDH9GQ. All lowercase. MDH9GQ. Guess the non-gooner. Yeah, I'll quickly do a guess the non-gooner, and then we'll wrap it up. Let me just think. I hadn't prepared one. Let me think of a guess the non-gooner. Do you know what? Why not? We'll go for him. Okay, your guess the non-gooner. They started their career at Leicester City. They went on loan to Huddersfield, and they went to Chelsea. So Leicester, on loan to Huddersfield, Chelsea. In my defence, I forgot to captain. Yeah, that's unfortunate. I lost a few points by captaining Saka instead of Haaland. It cost me 3 points, but it's not Kante. It's not Kante. It's not Drinkwater. It's not Barkley. It is indeed. I mean, this shows you how many players have gone from Leicester to Chelsea, to be fair. But the first person to get it correct is It's VV Vlad. VV Vlad's done the double. The dirty double. It's Ben Chilwell. SS9 was second. SS9 was third. No, SS9 was second. Hi was third. Drakkar was fourth. And Youngstar was fifth. So there you go. Yeah, that does just show how many players have made that route from Leicester to Chelsea. But there you go. Congratulations to VV Vlad. He's done the dirty double. He's in the top 10 of the FPL. What can this man not do? Sensational. Double just like Arsenal this season. Let's go. Anyway, that is going to be the end of what is quite a depressing stream. Depressing in the sense of Yuri and Timber. Obviously, I massively appreciate all of you tuning in as always. I'll be back 5 p.m. tomorrow, normal time tomorrow. And please do subscribe if you haven't done already. Smash a like on the stream. And have a good evening. Hopefully, I think Man United are going to win quite comfortably. Maybe we see an upset, which would be delightful. But look, I'll leave you to your evenings, and goodbye.